the field is going to continue to grow. We're going to see a lot more, mothers and fathers out there like, pursuing their best times, after having kids and
What's up? Welcome to the Marathon Podcast. My name is Christian Warwick. Warwick runs on Instagram, YouTube. Really happy to have you here in this episode where we're having Gabriella Smith on. Gabriella is a very fast marathoner. She just ran a 2:49 in Boston. But what's really special about her is that just a year ago, she gave birth to her second daughter. And we had such a cool conversation today. And I think that this is the kind of conversation where some men might actually skip it, but I think that everyone should listen just to kind of understand the processes, how it works, what the female body is like before, during, and after giving birth. And as a runner, I think that a lot of people, and we've seen this, and the reason why I wanted to initiate this conversation was actually that I've seen more, of these sponsors kind of ending their sponsorships or collaborations with athletes because they get pregnant. And what they don't remember or what they're not aware of is the fact that you have that mom strong that just comes. We see it time after time after time that mothers are running faster than they did before they were mothers. So I'm very excited for you guys to hear this conversation with Gabriella. I think that it was really cool. We also touch on faith, sorry, which is something that I haven't really talked a lot about here on the podcast. But yeah, all in all, just a conversation that I hope will help a lot of people. I hope that it will inspire. And also, I'm very happy that you get to know a person like Gabriella. She seems like such a good human being, and I'm very grateful to her for guesting the podcast. Before we dive into that, I thought I would again kind of tell you a little bit about my own running, my own training. I went out for a run today. So today's Thursday, and I ran on Sunday, Monday, and then Wednesday, yesterday and today. And it's so interesting to see because now we're like a week and a half away, or like it's a week and a half since Boston, where my legs were so banged up. And I talked to a lot of people about this, that sometimes after a marathon, you feel good just a couple of days after and you feel like you can start running. And then there are other times where you might get an injury or you're super sore after. This case, I'm just like, my muscles don't seem to have recovered fully yet, although it's Thursday and I ran the marathon on Monday. And I'm not talking about like not recovered in a way where I can do repeats or harder workouts. It's just like yesterday when I went out for a run with my good friend Tiril, I actually was like, we needed to stop halfway through to get like some buns and some orange juice just for me to be able to finish the run. I guess like I don't know, my body's just tired, needed more nutrition. Today when I went out for a run, my legs were just so heavy. I didn't feel like it was possible. Like I didn't feel very good, but not in a way where it's just like I'm feeling bad. It's just, or I'm feeling bad, but I don't feel fully recovered. So it's like jogging after having done a very long and hard run, which I guess I did a week and a half ago. But I'm talking about this just because I think it's important to kind of touch on the fact that it's not like you might see other people out running. There are people that I'm talking to on the podcast, people that I'm following. They are kind of like out running almost immediately after Boston. There are people out there running the day after a race like Boston. And it can potentially stress you out a little bit or make you feel less good, whatever. But I'm here to tell you that I don't think you should. I think that it's natural to feel tired for longer. I think that, like I said, different races will have different consequences or different effects on you. So just do it at your own pace. And obviously, I have John to help me out. And um, today is kind of like kudos to him, not to me, because it said rest day and I didn't really know if it was kind of like a that I could choose, because when we talked after the race, it was like I was gonna do this at my own pace. But I was like, there's probably a reason why it says rest day. He knows me better than I know myself by now. So I was just going out for a very easy short run. I think I ended up having like 4 miles or something like that. So not fast, not long, but yeah, body's still sore. So yeah, that's kind of it for now. I have had a lot of podcast recordings this week, which has been so much fun. I came back from Boston with so much energy and so much motivation and inspiration to kind of keep at it with this. So, uh, yeah, excited for you guys to hear all the episodes that I'm recording this week. There will be kind of a delay to them for the first time, or not for the first time, but usually I record these and they come out like the day after. But there will be some episodes that I recorded this week that won't be out until like 2 weeks or something like that. So hopefully that is okay. I don't think those are very, like eh, they're not bound to a certain time. Like they're not newsworthy, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, now I'm just rambling. Let's jump to the conversation with Gabriella. And just a quick reminder, if you want to support this podcast, please hit the links down below to get like a discount on Strava or a Flex Beam red light therapy, or yeah, the whatever it is that I have linked down below. If you want to support the podcast and you see the benefit of using it yourself, please go ahead. But now let's jump to the conversation with Gabriella. 1 week after Boston, Gabriella, welcome to the Marathon Podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well, feeling really good.
Yeah, we chatted for a couple of minutes before we started recording now, and I'm gonna ask you the same question that I just asked you. How are you feeling now, a week after Boston?
Yeah, I think, happy to be home, the biggest thing. I wasn't able to take my 2 daughters on this one, which was the first time, so that was tough to do, but, just being home, I kinda you jump right back into life, so just been enjoying getting some easy mileage and catching up with friends, and, I could, like, sit down and talk about Boston until my face turns blue, so, just trying to keep it light, keeping it easy, but yeah, it's just I'm ready to kinda get back into a block, honestly.
Yeah. Well, because it's funny that it's so impressive what you did in Boston. You ran a 2:49, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm sure listeners are like, wow, that's fast. But then what I we haven't mentioned yet within the first minute here is that it's not that long ago since you had a child. When did
Yep.
you?
Yeah. Well, my oldest daughter is 3, and my youngest daughter is just turned 1. Yep. So, yeah, this was actually Boston was my first marathon 1 year postpartum. So, I definitely felt like the strongest I've ever felt in a build on this one. And it was like my second stacked training block, 16-week block. So my last marathon was Chicago, and that one I ran 6 months postpartum, which felt a little rocky.
Hmm.
But, hence the, like, 9-10 minute PR, from Chicago to Boston. So it just felt good to, like, feel, like, strong again, like, feel like
Yeah.
myself, because it's been a while, if I'm being honest, like, it's been a while, so
It's so impressive. I think that it definitely proves that, you hear about the mom strength thing. It
yeah.
must be something to that.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, just like we were talking a second ago, I think, when you become I don't know, when you're pulled in different directions, like, for me in motherhood, it's like being home and being mom and being wife, and, I work also, I'm a professor at Liberty University, and I do some public relations on the side, and, it's just when I think you have to overcome a lot of obstacles to, like, accomplish something that you set out to do. It makes it so much more just, like, special. There's so much more joy, when you get there and, like, you see some of the results that you've been working so hard for. It's just all that effort goes into it. It's nice to see it pay off a little bit,
Yeah, for sure. And this is the like one of the episodes that I've been like
It
I don't know when we talked, like it was sometime last week. And when we scheduled this call, I was like, wow, I'm really excited about this one. And for several reasons, like it's fun to talk to people who are obviously into running, and we can share the Boston experience. So that is
Yeah.
fun. But also like the performance that you did. And also like I just told you that I I would love for this platform to also be a place where mothers can kind of share their journeys and how it's been like, because I have no voice in that, like I can't say what that's like
Right,
or
yeah.
anything like that, but it's really cool to see. And I also feel like with the things that we've seen like lately with some sponsors dropping pregnant
Yeah.
runners and stuff like that, I think that you are a great example on the fact that you can get back and
Oh,
just
yeah.
run faster and be stronger. And maybe,
Yeah.
like, honestly, if I was a sponsor, I'd be like, oh, you're pregnant? Great. Then we're going to up our investment in you because we
Right?
think you're going to run faster after.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think a lot of people are getting that, like, you're clearly getting that. Yeah, I mean, definitely a couple of, I think, headline-worthy, unfortunate sponsorship decisions have been made lately. Um, and, like, ooh, they really, they're gonna really take a hit for that
I
because
think so.
I think that the sponsorship relationship, it's more than just like a business contract.
Hmm.
Isn't the whole point that they support you, not just like your times on the clock, but like your lifestyle and what you stand for and, what you're trying to like the impact you're trying to, leave behind you and like you're trying to inspire other people. And I did think for sponsors that they don't consider all of those things, it's such a missed opportunity to be a part of something an athlete's very special journey and, like, obviously, really successful careers, but yeah, sorry, I could go on.
No, but it's good. And I think that this is like, this is one of the things that I want us to chat more about in our conversation. Not necessarily the sponsor part, but more about like how how it can be such a good thing, and how and also it's like even from a very cynical perspective from the sponsors, that's where I'm not getting it at all, because I'm like, from a personal level, I would love to, if I was a sponsor, I would love to support no matter what. But then it's like, even if they were to be super cynical, I don't understand it, because I would
Yeah.
see it more as a great investment. As long as the runner is motivated to keep running after,
Yeah.
you will get the results back, and you will also have that human dimension that will make a sponsorship more valuable, I guess.
Yeah, and, like, to be funny, like, I don't mean it all that seriously, but, like, my friends and I will always joke, like, we see something silly happening, and we're just like, "Man, where were all the women that when the men sat down in the room and made this decision?" Like, the
Yeah.
porta potties at Boston, you can relate to this.
Yeah.
Over in, not in Athletes Village, but the Boston Commons.
Hmm.
Where they lined up the porta potties, like, to get into the lines for the bus, like, they could have been, like, on opposite sides of the commons, but they were, like, right in front of each other, so you have people that are, like, beelining to the bus, but then hundreds of people that are like, "No, I wanna go to the bathroom before I get on a 45-minute bus ride." And, particularly the women,
Yeah.
mostly. And we're just like, "Come on, guys, like, we've been doing this for 130 years." But I mean, hey, if that's the only critique I could have for the Boston Marathon, then they're killing it, and, everybody that's putting their heart and soul into making that better and
Yeah.
better every single year for decades, they've been doing just an amazing job, so,
Oh yeah,
but
that's how I feel too. I don't know if you saw, but I posted this thing where people were disqualified because some of the boys were peeing on the fences and stuff.
Oh, no
In just
way.
before the start, there was like there weren't enough porta potties in that like
Mm.
last area before the start, and so we were like we had 25 minutes to the start, I think. And we were standing in line and like, oh wow, okay, now it's like 9:50 and we're still waiting here. And you start getting stressed out. And I saw some
Yeah,
people peeing behind the porta potties, just trying to get, because they were obviously stressed out. And then they had
yeah.
an official walking around and actually just
Wow.
disqualifying the people. Or I think that's what he did, because he got their bibs and scanned it and did something, and you just saw the desperation in the eyes of the runners.
Ah,
Um,
it's
and
horrible.
so I understand that they have to do that because they have to set
Right.
an example. They don't want people to pee everywhere. Like it makes
Yeah.
sense, but it's also heartbreaking. And like you said, that is the only thing. I thought that everything was perfect. Like I ran it last year, I ran it this year. I thought was perfect both times. The only thing was just that situation. And like you said, if that is the only thing that they messed up on, and not the
Right.
disqualifying part, but more just that there should have been more like urinals for boys and porta potties for women, for instance, because
Right.
I think that is also the issue, right? Like you guys, you need to have a porta potty while we could
Yeah.
just go
Yeah, it's
somewhere else.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's tough. I hadn't heard anything about people getting disqualified.
I kind of
That
hope
would be
that
just
they weren't
heartbreaking.
like that. They were actually just given a warning or like a,
Right. I hope
like
that's the case.
I hope so. But then after I posted it, I saw so many people commenting, and they were like, "Yeah, I saw this guy was disqualified," or this other guy. He said that they actually took their bibs. So I don't know if it's
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
uh,
I mean, if you're taking their bib, like, you can't
no.
get
Then
scanned. So,
if
yeah,
that is
like
the case, then it's definitely a DQ. Oh,
yeah, I will say, Chicago, my experience of Chicago, the bathroom situation was way worse off. Like, there
yeah,
was way less opportunities to use the restroom. Like, the line was like I mean, you've been to Disney Park, right? Like,
yeah.
it was like you were getting on in a line for a roller coaster. Genuinely, I didn't even spend enough time in the corral to go through the line once. And then you stand through the line, you probably have to go again before you start,
Yeah,
every
exactly.
trying to stay hydrated and,
No, I've
man, that
heard some
sucks,
horror
yeah.
stories about Chicago and that. So I mean, it is difficult. I am happy I don't have the job to coordinate all of that because that would be stressful. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
I just wanted to look up, I think we were talking about just women and the experience of, like, especially, like, mothers kind of re-entering the athletics field,
yeah,
after having kids, and I don't know what the numbers are, but I do know for sure that, like, women are catching on, like, "We can do this, like, we can
hmm
go back and we can run faster, we can perform at the level that we were and even more." And so, like, we talked about sponsors for a sec, but, like, I think that, like, I think the rest of the everybody just needs to catch up
yeah,
because the field is gonna continue to grow. We're gonna see a lot more, mothers and fathers out there, like, pursuing their best times, after having kids and, raising and providing for families and not to keep it all the focus on the mom because, like, husbands, fathers, they
yeah,
do so
it's
much
yeah,
too, like, super important role. I've got 2 daughters and,
hmm
I know that, like, the father's role is, like, the most important role in a young girl's life.
yeah,
So, like, a lot comes with that, but anyways, I definitely think, there's a growing population of people that are like, "Wait a second, like, I don't need to be in my 20s to, like,
hmm
kick some ass out on
exactly,
the
yeah,
marathon field."
yeah.
So, yeah, it's gonna be incredible. I mean, gosh, look at the world records that are, like, literally were just set, like,
Wow, yeah,
yesterday.
so much fun.
Mind-boggling
Yeah.
in
Gabriella, I
London.
think this maybe is the longest conversation that I've had with someone before I'm asking them to introduce. Like, I want you to
Oh
introduce
gosh, yeah,
yourself.
sorry.
No, 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 that's not your fault. I just got caught up here, and I was excited about everything we talked about. But for the listeners who don't know who you are, can you say something about you, who you are, both as a runner, but also outside of running? I think people are starting to have an idea already, but
Yeah, good. Well, my name is Gabriella Smith. I am very new to marathon running. I've run my first 3 marathons, my only 3 marathons, after I started having kids, and I'm really happy to be coming off of a great first experience at Boston, my first marathon experience over a year postpartum. So, kind of getting my body back. I ran a little bit at Liberty University when I was in school. And so I've got a little bit of, like, collegiate experience behind me. Super thankful to have been poured into by some awesome coaches that have cared not just about my times as an athlete, but, like, about me as a whole person. And yeah, I think what I'm most excited to do, within sport, the next couple of years is to honestly just use it as a platform to inspire others, and, a big part of that is because I get all of my inspiration from Jesus Christ, and, to me, like, every time, every morning I get out and have the freedom and the ability to, exercise my body and my abilities, like, I see every single morning, every run, it's a gift from God, so I'm thankful for that, and I wanna keep doing it, and I wanna just pursue every open door, that God opens up, and yeah, I think there's such an exciting world out there, and it's a crazy time to be a runner. I mean, just
Yeah.
there's so much to tap into.
Hmm.
So, yeah, a little bit about me, I guess.
Cool. And what about outside of running? Where are you based? And you did mention that you're a professor
Yeah.
as well. Will you say
Yeah,
something more what you do?
I'm originally a Pennsylvania native, but I am now, I call the mountains of Virginia home. So I gotta get a lot of good hill running in, while I'm here. So I live in Lynchburg, Virginia with my family, my husband and my 2 daughters. And, yeah, I work at, Liberty University as an adjunct professor, and, I also work for a behavioral health nonprofit called Horizon Behavioral Health. So I do some public relations for them. Um, I love being in that work. I We do a lot of work around, substance use, treatment and prevention and education of the community, and, mental illness awareness and education, and there's just such a huge need, and obviously, huge crossover with my passion for running and for sport.
Hmm.
So, I think I really enjoy that piece of it, but yeah, just wanna be make an impact in my small corner of the world. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do here in Lynchburg.
love that. And what got you into the marathons? Because, like you said, you started running marathons after you had your first daughter. What kind of sparked that idea of running a marathon?
Yeah, well, the men that are listening, if there's any listening, will laugh. But yeah, I was literally sitting in the nail salon and I saw this article come up about the Abbott World Marathon Majors. I'd never heard of it before. And I was like, oh, this is sick. I can do this. I saw like there's like a small one, like something percent chance of people in the world that do it. And I was like, I feel called to do this. I'm gonna do it. So I turned around to my mom and said, "I'm gonna do this." And I literally sat there in the nail salon and I created this account. I think it was like my way of like telling myself I was gonna be accountable. And I created this account, Mama Runs the World,
So you
and
did all of
literally did
this.
it right there.
So the idea and the Instagram account and everything kind of came to life
Yep.
immediately
While I was
within
sitting there getting a
minutes.
pedicure. Yep. Oh, and
That's
I had
great.
a huge pregnant belly at the time. I was
Okay.
very
Yes.
pregnant.
Yeah.
With my
Wow.
first. So I think some of it stemmed from, like, I'm so pregnant, like, I wanna get back to, like, running and feeling like myself, everybody gets there.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it kinda stemmed that whole, like, desire, in me, and then yeah, we did it. I got really into, we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, when I think training, in different seasons of life, particularly, pregnant, postpartum, even just, being even a year, postpartum, training does have to shift. It has to look different. I can't train the same way you do, because my body's doing different things. And so you have to respect what your body's going through. So that's been a big part of my training. But that kind of stemmed from a gift that my brother gave me. He's a nurse, and so when I was pregnant with my first, he was like trying to rack his brain, like, what can I get my sister? And he was like, I know how much running and being active and like your fitness really, you love that piece of your lifestyle. And he's like, I want to make sure that you don't lose any of that, if that's what you choose, you know, postpartum and while you're pregnant and everything. So, anyways, he found me a Peloton, off Facebook Marketplace or something and gifted it to me, brought it from Pennsylvania down to Virginia, and then things are heavy.
Nice. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that has been like a huge staple in my training. So I rely really heavily on cross training. I
Mhm.
actually only run 3 days a week. So that's kinda like that's essentially my plan boiled down. I cross train 3 days a week, and then I do, foot mileage 3 days a week, and then I take Sunday as a rest day.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's been a big, big help to me. So big shout out to my twin brother. He knows me. He knew me so well right from the start.
Nice.
Really kind of
Some
set
twin
things in
energy
motion.
there.
What?
Understanding how y some twin
Oh
energy,
yeah.
understanding how
Yeah.
you felt.
Yeah. I mean, from the nurse standpoint, he was like, postpartum depression is a thing. And like, if, pregnancy doesn't go as planned, which, it can flush out a
Mhm.
million different ways, right? He was like, I want to make sure that you have some sort of outlet. Like, even if you
Yeah,
can't leave the house, like, I want to make sure that you have the ability to move. Um, and that like really helped me huge.
yeah.
So, and then
Oh,
since then, like from then it was more of like a physical need, like you have to be careful and be gentle with your body. But like even, 6 months, 9 months to a year postpartum, like it your body strengthens, right? Like mom strong and all, but then also then comes the balancing of like your family and your kids and their time and your time and work and all of the things. And my husband's schedule and his him being able to get to the gym and getting the same time to, like, be active and do his thing. He's not a huge runner, but I'm working on it. I'm getting in there. He's
nice.
just more into lifting, but, it's his 3 days are important to me too. So, like,
Yeah.
he gets his 3 days a week, and while he, jumps out at 4 or 5 AM to go to the gym, I can be downstairs in the Peloton while the girls are still asleep. But, like,
Mhm.
if I didn't have the ability to, like, work out in the house, like, I I don't know how we do it because family's gotta come first, at least for me.
Yeah.
We don't have family in town, so, yeah, just
Mhm.
thankful that we have the resources to be able to do that because I recognize not everybody does.
Yeah.
That
Oh, cool. And I'm very impressed by the fact that you just, dedicated yourself to the marathon while getting a pedicure there
Yeah,
in that
I
nail
know.
salon. Uh, but what? So you ran in college. What was your, like in terms of level, in terms of um, mileage and all of that? Where were you at before you decided to, like, when you were getting your nails done and you made this account? Where were you at? Did you start
Yeah.
from ground zero, or were you already in pretty good shape?
No, I mean, I think I've just always enjoyed running, so I don't remember there being, like, a time where I was just like, "I'm tired of running, I'm gonna stop." I don't think I've really ever done that. Um, I only ran for, like, 1 year when I was in high school, so I went into college feeling super fresh and curious, for what I could do, and then I graduated school in a short amount of time. I think it was, like, within 3 years, I was in and out. So, I only ran for 2 and a half, 2 and a half, maybe 3. I think it might have been 2. So I ran cross country and track for Liberty, and at that time, they were small school D1, and we competed in the Big South, the ASUN conference. So it was great. It was, like, my first exposure to, like, some real, like, competition. And so I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I had a coach, Rebecca Ricksecker. She's female head coach now at JMU here in Virginia, and she was excellent. Like she just kind of showed me that she cared so much more, about my whole self. I think she just knew that if she focused on all of it, my times were just going to continue to improve.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, just the nature of the athlete, right? Like we are athletes because we are hard on ourselves and we're really good at motivating ourselves and we're really good at like keeping ourselves accountable. So
Hmm.
like I think good coaches can like sense that and they know when they need to like pour into other cups,
Yeah.
to help make you like mentally strong, physically strong, all of it, spiritually, everything.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I enjoyed the college experience. I got married right out of college, married my husband, and then we moved to Northern Virginia for a little while. And I didn't do any competitive running for like maybe like a year, year and a half, but
Mhm.
just kind of ran for myself, just ran for fun. Um, and I don't know, I just, like, had this random, like, fire where I was like, "Man, I wanna get back to competing, like, I think I can do this."
Yeah.
And I did my first half marathon, on the East Coast. We went out it was honestly just an excuse for a little beach trip. So, I'm sure you've heard of the, racecations, right? Everybody's doing
Hmm.
that, right?
Hmm. That's all
But
we do at home here. We
yeah.
only do that now.
I know, it's the best, like, the first half was an excuse to get to the Carolinas and do a race and call it a weekend. It was beautiful, we had the best time, took our baby, and, It was like our first true family vacation, it kinda felt like.
Yeah.
And then obviously I caught the bug with the half. I was like, "Oh, the half? I can definitely go full. Like, I'm gonna do this." So then I signed up for, another racecation. This one was in California. This was my first marathon. Um, and it was the Hogue Orange County.
Mhm.
Incredible, incredible race. They do a great job. It's not a major, but, like, it definitely gives you major vibes.
Yeah.
They light off fireworks at the start. I mean, it was just
Oh,
incredible.
nice.
And it was just the most bizarre thing. I jumped in my first marathon, had no idea what to expect, went in it for, like, the views and to see what I could do, and I realized I'm, like, in first place, like, halfway through. They're like, "You're first female, first female." I'm like, "Surely somebody's mistaken." But I crossed the line at, like, 3:05, and I don't know,
Wow.
this is yeah, yeah, it was an incredible, surprising experience, but then obviously after that, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this," because it
Mhm.
was so fun.
So
But
how long was that after your first daughter was born?
I ran Orange County, that was in May, and so my first daughter was almost 1.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. So, like, all of the things, like, and, 'cause since you mentioned it, trying to get an idea into, like, the woman's, like, world of, like, how do you do all of it? It's
Yeah.
like, the biggest thing, which has been really challenging for me, is the breastfeeding piece. So,
Yeah.
like, I probably pump, like, 16 ounces the morning of the race, right? And then now I literally just saw somebody at Boston, and I realized you can now check you can check, like, medical equipment. So, like, you can take
Oh, yeah.
your pumps and stuff. I didn't even know that was a thing. So, I was like, "Where is my head? I guess I'm living under a
So
rock."
they have, like, special solution, not special but special treatment kind of where you can bring that and they will bring it back for you or something, so you
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
just like anybody else could check, like, an inhaler, I guess, or,
Yeah.
like, anything that you check in your bag,
Yeah.
you can take it to Athletes Village or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, I mean, I don't know if you have to, like, leave it, so, like, they're not cheap, so, like,
No, because that
um
was my first thought, that if you have to leave it, it's but I
yeah.
still, it's nice that you're able to bring it at least. Because if you just maybe you just add that to the marathon budget of leaving one.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it stinks, but, like, hey, let's get some of these manufacturers to start sponsoring some athletes, and they
Mhm.
can put me down on the list. I'm almost done, so but maybe for the 3rd baby, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's, like, so nice to see that they're making some, adjustments, and, obviously, women can defer now if you get pregnant
Mhm.
for at
Mhm.
least the
Yeah.
majors.
That is awesome. I think that is so good, especially like seeing how difficult it is to get in, and that is something that they're doing. It's really good.
Yeah. This year actually, this Boston that I just ran was a deferred year because I had qualified in 2023, before I did my 2:58 in Chicago, and that was the race that I qualified for Boston, but I ended up having my second daughter in March of the year
Mhm.
that I was excited to run Boston, but we got pregnant. So,
Yeah.
um I remember sitting at home with, like a not even a month-year-old baby and watching everybody's Boston footage, and I was just like, "Man, oh, it's gonna be me next year, like, just hang on."
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, to me, like, my family and my kids and the life we're building together, like, that's more important.
Mhm.
Everything else can wait.
Yeah.
But very thankful to have been able to press pause and give
Yeah.
my body a chance to kinda rebuild itself, and, you know I was able to do it and be strong doing it. Like
Mhm.
Chicago, 6 month postpartum, that was a stretch. And I had a really hard time. Like I kind of started talking about the breastfeeding piece. Like that's a challenge. It takes like a lot of your nutrients. Like it skips your body and goes right to your milk to feed your baby.
Mhm.
So like you have to work double as hard on the fueling. Um, that's just normal every day through the clock. But then when you're also thinking about fueling during the marathon, it's not really something that I was focused on because I was more concerned, like, okay, I'm gonna go run my race, but like, is Isla good? Like, she's 6 months old. I'm leaving her with her dad in the massive city. Does she have all of the milk that she needs? Like, does she have snacks? Like, are her clothes warm enough? Like these are the things
Yeah.
that moms like never leaves your mind, right?
Yeah, obviously.
And dads too.
Yeah.
But Anyways, I thought I was very focused when I was, getting ready to run Chicago. I was very focused on those her needs, not so much on mine. So I get to the starting line. I had like a few gels on me, so I thought like, "Oh, I'm good. They're gonna just be passing them out in the race. Like I'll just grab if I need." But I hadn't really thought and processed through the importance of the fueling plan, especially because I was breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And I really suffered because of it. Um, I hardly gelled. I hardly gelled the second half of the race and, had to rely on the Mortons that they were
Hmm.
handing out, which I had never taken before, so my body was like, "This is foreign," didn't like it at all, made me really sick afterwards. Praise God I finished the race and I felt amazing, but then, like, 15 minutes after, I was like, "Whoa, like, something's wrong." I started to, like, lose all my color and,
Oh wow.
it was pretty bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty bad. I ended up in the ER later that night because I needed IV fluids. I think I was a little bit out of it, obviously, but my husband said that, they gave me, like, 2 full bags of IVs,
Hmm.
and then finally, like, on the 3rd, I think they were like, "Okay, she's good, like, she's
Yeah.
coming around," but, like, I think that just kinda goes to show, like, how much extra your body really needs, and so, like, there are other pieces that, like, you have to pay even more attention to as a mom because
Yeah.
it's more than just a sacrifice or, like, a stretching of, like, your time, it's also of, your body. It takes a
Hmm.
toll on your body a little bit too, but
I,
all part
I,
of it.
Yeah, and I want us to talk a little bit about that before we, because I want us to go back to that first marathon and just like that's all the whole journey from the first marathon and up until Boston now. But when you're talking about this, it just makes me think about, when it comes to pregnancy, there are like some topics in the world of running or sports where a lot of people have opinions, right?
Yeah.
And so there are people who have opinions about you running in the first place when you're pregnant without
Oh,
necessarily
yeah.
knowing that that is actually a good thing. Like that's something that I've learned, that it's actually
Yeah.
very healthy and a good thing. And
Yeah.
then I'm sure there are also people having opinions about, racing pretty like shortly after giving birth and all of that. Uh, how has that been like for you? Because, like you were saying, you had to get IV and stuff after the race. Did you feel like people were almost judging you for, putting
Hmm.
your body through that
Yeah.
after, like, yeah, I don't
Hmm.
know.
That's a toughie. I mean, I they probably did. They probably I don't know. So I don't think most of the time people don't even know.
No.
But I'm sure maybe some. I do think though the biggest thing is like I have a great OBGYN. He's awesome. Like I text and back and forth with him. Like he's very aware of like my pursuits on the marathon side of things. And I have ran things by him. Like I think the last time we were having a baby, I was like, okay, Jared, I need this to go well because I am running Boston next year and I want to be back or Chicago at the time. And so, he just supported me in that. And we talked a lot about like what you can and, what his recommendations were. And I met with my doctor actually weekly with our first because she was growing a little bit small, which nothing related to, my running. Because I ran a little bit while I was pregnant, but I actually haven't like I've done small races, but I have never like tried to like compete in a marathon while pregnant.
Hmm.
Um, and not to say that you can't. I just think it needs to be done in like under, like, the watchful eye of, like, an OBGYN that gets it and,
Yeah.
like, a doctor that can, be advising you on, like, "Alright, so this is where your fitness level is at," and understanding, like, what your heart is used to doing, what your body is used to doing,
Hmm.
and then they can advise from there, like, "This is what I think would be safe during during your pregnancy." But, like I said with the fueling, you have to be committed to, like, doing the extra things, like, pelvic floor is a really big deal, and I think it's called, post-uterine prolapse can happen,
Hmm.
if you
Yeah.
begin running too soon after having kids, like, your uterus can, like, literally just fall out of your body.
Hmm.
I didn't have a problem with that, but I worked really hard when I was pregnant, on pelvic floor work, like Pilates and biking and just all kinds of stuff. So I was very grateful, but also every pregnancy and every body is different. So
Yeah.
what works for me may not work for somebody else. But it definitely is possible, if you
Yeah.
put your mind to it and you have the time and the energy and the ability to kind of, prepare your body for
Hmm.
what you plan to do,
Yeah.
ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah, there's a lot
I
that goes
think
into it.
I think this is such an important topic because it's I feel like people are not necessarily. I mean, how would you be educated on it unless you're listening to a podcast about
Yeah.
it or you talk to someone specifically about it? And especially if you feel like, say, you want to run during pregnancy or race pretty early after pregnancy. Like here in Norway, we have this. She used to be a cross country skier, was like
Mm.
one of the best in the world, or the best in the world. And 3 months ago, she had a son, and on Saturday, so 2 days ago, she won a 10K here running.
Mm.
She ran a 33:15.
Dang.
3 months after having
Wow.
her son.
Yeah. I
And
mean, seriously, that is crazy impressive 3 months after.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so impressive, but I'm sure, like, and obviously the headlines, then she won the race and she raced really well, and regardless of pregnancy or giving birth, whatever, it's an impressive time, right? Like 33:15 is fast in 10K, and but then the headlines are like, yeah, 3 months after giving birth, she's running in 33:15. And I think that because of that, luckily, that becomes more of like an accepted thing to do. And I'm sure some people would be like 3 months is too early, whatever. But it's more that it's nice that that becomes something that people are more aware of. That okay, it's okay to do some of these things. And like you said, everybody is different. So it works for her, but then there are some people it wouldn't work for at all. It worked for you to run a marathon pretty soon after having your first daughter, and also now with Boston running so fast. I think it's so good because if you don't hear about it, you will be more skeptical. And then I'm
Right.
sure there are some doctors who are not, like you said, you have a good one, but like if you don't have a doctor who's experienced with it, they might also be a little
Yeah.
bit skeptical. So that information I think is crucial to
It
yeah,
is.
yeah,
Yeah, and Stephanie Case is another one, like, here in America that's just a great example, killing it, like, she just ran, like, a 50K, got 1st place, it was this big deal this last year, and she, like, stopped 3 or 4 times along the way to breastfeed her son.
yeah,
Think
yeah.
she I think he was, like, just under a year or something.
Hmm.
So it's incredible, but what you said, it kinda makes me wanna ask you a question,
Yeah,
but,
go for it.
I'm just thinking, like, from the men's like, from the competitive men's standpoint, you see all this, like, this woman's, like, postpartum, and she still ran this time. I wonder if, like I I could see how, like, maybe that would kind of get, like, annoying. I don't know, not in, like, a bad way, but, like, from a men's
No,
standpoint, like, does that make sense? Like
yeah, I think it's, I don't know if I would say annoying, but it's definitely like you ask yourself, how is that possible? Like you've been under, like you haven't been able to train the way you have, you haven't been
Mhm.
able to, you know, uh you haven't been able to prepare for this race the way you would have normally, and then you see that and it's just like wow. But to me, I think, and maybe I'm not the right person to ask because I'm just so curious about all of this, I'm putting that immediately into that box of wow, like she's mom strong right now. It's, it's kind of it really works for her. And then the thing that what I liked about what you said earlier in our conversation is like family always comes first. And so
Mhm.
I think that if I know that the person doing that has that focus or like has that priority, then it's really cool. If
Yeah.
I feel like that person is like, and obviously you would have to know that person well to be
Right.
able to start thinking or talking or judging whatever. But if I feel like that person is taking more risks, like with her health or the child's health because of her own ambitions, then I would maybe say that maybe you should kind of focus and prioritize your family now. I'm not saying that about this girl, but it's more like I think that would be the most important thing to me. But I'm also like
Yeah.
I'm obviously I love family, and I think that that should be the priority when you have kids, kind of
Yeah.
like what you said. But then, because there's such a balance there, right? Like for you to be a good mom, you probably have to run because that
Yeah.
makes you a better mom. But
Yeah.
then if you start prioritizing running too much, that's probably also going to make you less of a
Yeah.
mom
I
because,
mean,
you know,
there's literally so much science between and just, like, you think about the hormones and the chemicals that you exchange, like, between mom and baby, dad and baby, like, especially in the first year, in the first months, like, you are tied. So, like, I don't know, it's just I think it's amazing how God has made, like, the mother and father relationship, to be so the child is dependent upon mom and dad, and so,
hmm
I think, like you said, like, those priorities are super important, and we're talking about, like, mom strong, right? Or, like, I don't care, call it dad strong. I mean, our
yeah,
dads in this generation are, like, killing it. They're so present, and it's amazing. Like, it allows me to do what I do. My husband is so supportive, and he's so hands-on with our girls, but, I think part of the one of the biggest sources of strength when we're thinking about, like, mom strong, dad strong, whatever it is having, like, the right priorities, and I think that God-given innate, like, desire for me to, like, want to put my kids' needs first, that does make me stronger, you know what I
yeah,
mean? I personally really feel that way. I think, it's just I feel like it's the way, like, God has designed me and, like, thinking about having, like, the kinda mindset that's gonna fuel, you doing well, it's gonna be, doing the things that brings you joy, and, being a mom brings me the most joy that,
hmm
I will experience, and, I got my relationship with Jesus Christ is also a huge part of my training, like, I think, I try to keep my mindset focused upward, because I just know that there's so much, that you can't control around the things around us, like men, women, environment, kids, health,
hmm hmm
there's just so much that is out of our control, and it's like, the less I try to control and, like, I think us marathoners, like, we love our training plan, and, like,
yeah,
we wanna check off every box, we wanna hit every rep, like, we don't wanna be a second behind, like, when I see those numbers, I'm just like I've, like, got this, like, fire,
yeah,
but, so I know that you relate to that, everybody relates to that, but it's, like, also at the end of the day, when you step back and you get off the track and you go home, and it's, like, just to, like, also focus on, like, the bigger picture,
yeah,
is super healthy,
hmm
because, like, I think the times are just, like, a bonus,
yeah, definitely,
Um,
definitely. And it's like
so
I think that I also want to ask you more about your faith later on in the conversation because I think that's very. I don't know if you saw this article that came out a few weeks ago about how some of the, especially the best U.S. runners, like Connor Mans and Clayton Young, like they were talking about how, or they were looking at kind of the relationship between strong faith and running fast. And that was very interesting. So I want to ask you more about that as well. But what you're saying there, I think that it's so important for all of us in terms of that marathon, right? Like I ran a 2:44. I'm super happy about that. But then I know on Monday that come Thursday or Friday, I'm gonna be unhappy with that. You know,
I
like
know, I
it's like
know.
I know I'm gonna be flying. I'm gonna be happy. I'm like I'm gonna walk around and be like, yeah, I ran a 2:44 marathon, be super hyped, really happy about that. And then I get to Friday, I'm like, ah, it's not that good, is it? I need to run faster.
I
And
know.
and it
What
happens
is
every
that?
time.
I
No,
hate it.
it's I know. It's awful. And I'm trying to kind of just I'm trying to put this into perspective and be like, the reason why I'm thinking like this is because even more so when I have this podcast, right? Because I'm interacting with people and I'm like, oh yeah, what is your marathon time? Like you end up asking that, or that is like part of the conversation, or it says in the bio of the Instagram, whatever. And then whenever you see people who are faster than you, you feel slower. But
Right.
then if I walk around in my neighborhood, right? Like if I would never do that, but if I walked up and knocked on all the doors and asked them what their marathon PR would be, like most of them would say I've never done a marathon. And then if someone did, they would probably not be faster than me.
But
And so like that, those are the facts, but I'm still not able to see that because my my focus is so narrow on this running community. Obviously, when you're running Boston, it's a, I mean, just qualifying for Boston is a big deal, and that
yeah,
also
yeah,
means that people around you in Boston, they are at a high level. So you
yeah.
can't be upset about 1,000 people running faster than you or whatever. So you know,
Seriously, yeah. Yeah,
it's
and
a
don't beat up on yourself too much, because like, I think that there's a piece of that that's super healthy, like, that just means you are a competitive, driven athlete.
yeah, yeah,
Like, I think that there's a piece of that that is super healthy, and, like, that's what makes you an athlete.
yeah.
So, like, I do think some of it's good, but then the other piece of it is, like, comparison is the thief of joy,
Oh, definitely.
100%.
And I
Eh
think that is where we need to be. I don't know. I think if we're able to use it to our benefit, like you were saying, if we can use it as motivation, as
Yeah,
like what gets you up in the morning, and I really do believe that at least that I've found that where I'm not satisfied because I want to get better,
yeah.
but I'm still able to enjoy it. Like
Mhm.
my fiance, I love her. She loves to brag about me. So like when we go to people, she's like, "Yeah, he did so well. He did this, and that." And I'm like, "Yeah,
As she
thank you."
should, yeah.
It's like it's fun, and then I'm obviously just like I'm enjoying that of it, and just like, "Thank you." Yeah, I am very happy, and as a runner, you kind of hope people will ask you how fast you ran and
I
stuff,
know.
and you're like,
I
"Yeah."
know. How about when you go back to work the next day and it's like you get on your meeting and nobody knows and it's like, "Oh, can somebody just ask?"
That's when you have to wear your Boston jacket.
I know, seriously. I told Brennan he needs to build me, like, a wall so that I can put all of my bibs on the
Yeah.
wall. "Oh, what's this? Let me just I can tell you."
Yeah, exactly.
"Curious?"
No,
Yeah.
but I think it's like you said, we need to find that balance of, okay, this is motivation, but you can't kind of like can let yourself be affected by it in a bad way of like, I'm not fast. That's not the case, you know?
Yeah.
It's just finding that. And I think that I've been saying that before, and I'm repeating myself that what I love about the marathon is that we're competing with ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
what's good for what you want to run is good for you. What I want to run is good for me, and we all have those like time goals, and I think that's natural. It is a time
Yeah, and
based
it's an
sport,
individual
right?
sport.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Now I
you
think this
see,
conversation is so important.
yeah,
Like, we have such a responsibility with, like, the running community is more connected now than it has ever been.
hmm
Like, social media and these races are huge, and there's so much more eyes on the sport that, like, we need to, like, equally understand, like, the responsibility of, like, there are generations of young runners coming behind us, and they're not gonna know anything different. Like, we remember well, I mean, even, we're young too, but, like, it wasn't that long ago where these races were, like, few and far in between, and there's a couple of thousand people getting together, and a handful of them were women even, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And,
yeah,
and now there's so much diversity in the field, and, people are overcoming so much, to get on the starting line, and, we need to be keeping the generations, I think, behind us in mind because we can't let, like, the comparison culture, like, steal the joy from running.
hmm hmm
Because, if we let that happen, like, people aren't gonna enjoy it the way that it's been
yeah.
enjoyed and the way it should be enjoyed. Um,
And that is
so
actually like something that I feel even more responsibility having this podcast to try to focus more on that. So like going
yeah.
forward, I hope to. I think it's natural that you get some fast runners on, especially with the pros, because it's fun to hear and see what they're doing. But
Yeah.
it's also, I think, important for me to focus also on the ones that are not running as fast. And like in our conversation here, we're not necessarily talking about super training specific things. Like it could be that we jump on a call later on and I'll ask you about like what your workouts look like. But for this conversation, I think it's so important to kind of get more information about, so what did your training look like when you were,
The
first of all, when you were pregnant and you started training for your first half marathon. I don't know if you started training when you were still pregnant, but you know,
Yeah.
like, but
Mhm.
those things, those I think will be more interesting. And that has nothing to do with, yes, it's cool that you ran a 2:49 in Boston. That's awesome. And that's like it goes to show what you can do. So that part
Mhm.
of it is great. But I don't
Right.
want anyone listening to this feeling like, oh, if I'm not running a 2:49, then I'm not
Yeah.
good. I feel like the purpose of this conversation will be that it's actually possible. If you qualified for Boston for 2026 and you couldn't run because you're pregnant, then you can go back in 2027 and you can still have a good time and run to your ability or potential, right?
Yeah, like, time aside, go get your own personal best, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, who cares what the number is?
Yeah.
Like, like, you totally can, and it's just it may not be it's gonna be in your own timing,
Hmm.
like and it's because every experience, especially the birthing experience, totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even, like, the home environment that you come home to, there's a
Hmm.
lot of like, I have a lot of friends that are, like, single moms, or, single person households. They're raising their kids on their own and, hopefully people, have family that can support them, but that's not always the case either. So, like,
No.
all of that, like, it all plays into it
Yeah.
for sure. But,
And,
yeah, I mean,
yeah. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I feel like we're at a crossroad where it's like, if we do this right, like, as a running community and we continue to, like, build each other up and, like, not let, like, the comparison culture kinda steal the joy from running, like, then we land somewhere where kinda like Boston. Like, I think what everybody says makes Boston unique is that it feels like home. It's like community. You
Hmm.
can literally feel it when you go from neighborhood to neighborhood. Like, they don't care what times you're running. Like, they care that you're out here continuing a 130-year-old, um,
Yeah.
like, tradition,
Yeah.
and, like, they take such pride in, like, just, like, people getting out there and showing up that day. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what the time is, really.
They
Um
ask you if you finished, and that is cool.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so cool. I was asked after my fiance is from just outside Boston, and we were at a coffee shop, and I was asked like, "Oh wow, did you run a marathon?" Because I don't know if she saw, I don't know what she saw. If I wasn't even wearing like my Boston gear. I had a sweatshirt with Boston on it, and but she might have seen me limping. And then she was
Oh,
like, she's like, "Did you run yesterday?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Did you finish?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Wow." And that is cool. Like that is the answer we should be asking. Actually,
yeah,
like we I hope people also ask me about my time because I'm proud of it. But I
right.
think we still should be asking that question. Did you finish? Because we've lost track of the fact that running a marathon, totally regardless of that time, is such a victory and such a big, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big deal just finishing, right?
Yeah, and, like, thinking about priorities too, we talked about, like, having your priorities when you're thinking about your training and how it fits into your lifestyle. Like, just because I know there's serious runners that, will be listening to this, and it's like, just because your times are not your priority, like, full perspective, doesn't mean that you're not giving it everything you have when you're out there practicing, Like, when I'm out training, my mind is in it, like, I'm focused
Hmm.
on it, but then, I think you have to be able to, like, set that boundary. You gotta be able to, touch it back. I don't care if, like, you're going home to kids or a wife or a fiancé. Congratulations, by the
Hmm.
way.
Thank you. We're getting
Um,
married in 3 weeks, so it's exciting.
Dang,
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
so soon.
yeah. Very soon. It
You're
feels close to
definitely
now.
probably gonna go do a race on your honeymoon, aren't you? I bet you that's exactly what you're gonna
I think Sydney is gonna be our kind of like honeymoon. Now
Nice!
we're
Oh, I
actually
love it.
we're doing a civil ceremony in 3 weeks, and so our honeymoon is gonna be like a trip where we'll go look at places to have our big wedding in a couple of years.
Oh,
So yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Good for
hmm,
you guys.
yeah.
Oh, man, enjoy.
Thank you.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think you can be focused and, I don't think that it makes me less of a committed runner because I have priorities that are larger than my times on the track and
Hmm.
my
Yeah,
times, at the finish line.
I
Um
agree.
at all. Like that's
Yeah.
not what it's about, I don't think at all.
Mhm.
So,
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. This is so fun. I find this so interesting, and you know, yeah, I love that we're having this conversation, and I love that people are listening to this. Like that, I think it's so important, and uh, I want to give you kind of the opportunity to, like I said, we're not going to go through like all your training, but based on your two pregnancies and coming back from it and also racing pretty soon after, if you were to kind of give an advice to other runners, or and then like encourage them, or like just maybe things that you were worried about, that you were like, oh, this is okay,
Mhm.
almost like a pep talk to anyone
Yeah.
in that
Mm.
same situation, what would you say to people who find themselves in that same situation as you've been
Yeah,
in twice?
that's a great question. Um, I think especially for those that are, like, first time pregnant, just starting out, like, just, getting ready to grow their family, I didn't know if I would ever feel like the same my same self again. Um, and you often, women will hear people say, you know, motherhood changes you, it changes who you are. Um, the older I get, the more I can understand that, I think, because, but I think especially early on, it didn't change who I was, it changed how I do things and how, like, I saw the world, and, you know, I think just when, your priorities are in the right place, like, you get to find joy in areas that you didn't expect to find joy, and so, when I don't for me personally, like, when I have joy and I have peace, and I feel content, like, Um, I'm gonna perform better at work. I'm gonna be a better mom. I'm gonna be a more loving wife, more patient mom. Um, and I think that we talk about how, like, the body physically changes in motherhood, but I think really, like, your mind and your perspective, that's where, like, the real change is, and I do think you maintain who you are in that, but, like, you just grow so much, like,
Mhm.
your perspective is just you just get such a bigger view of the world and, like, what's important, and, I mean, I think I have found that, and, even beyond, like, thinking about, internally, like, you know, we're, like, we're always so self-absorbed, right? I'm as human race in general, right? So, like, but when I think about what the impact that, like, my life, like, what I do, what I say, how I spend my time, how that's impacting, like, my kids that watch me every single day.
Yeah.
Like, they are learning from me, like, even if I don't even say anything. And, that has, it brings even a little bit more weight to everything that you're doing. Like, for my training, it's like, showing my kids that, like, I find joy in it and I work hard and, like, I sweat and it's not always easy, but, like, I still love it, and
Yeah.
you can love hard things, things that challenge you, like we should, it pushes us to grow.
Mhm.
But, as a mom, knowing that, like, my kids are getting to see those things, it just gives me another platform to, like, help grow them into, like, the strong, like, women that I want them to be one day, because I think we all have our shortcomings, like, not every, parent, like, their strong suit is, like, communication, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm in PR, so, like, you would think I'm probably, like, I should be the best communicator ever, right? But, like, we all have our different strengths, and so I think running has been able to be a platform for me to, like, show my 3-year-old. She wants to run fast and she loves to
Yeah.
run, and, like, we get to have conversations about, like, "Hey, it's okay if you're tired, like, you can keep going if you're enjoying it." And then, like, I help teach her how we're, like, teaching her how to, like, breathe in for her nose.
Mhm.
And we go out into the track and have fun, and, it's just
It's beautiful.
there's just so much, yeah, like, I think the competitiveness of the running, I love that, it's a big piece of the marathon training for me, I love that piece. But, like, in later years, the more I get into it, the more it is, like, the joy of sharing this pursuit with my kids is so, so special,
Yeah.
Um So that's something to look forward to. I mean, to the young moms that maybe are starting out, like, like flash forward, like that's
Hmm.
where you're going. Like just
Yeah.
keep pursuing the things that bring you joy, the things that you're passionate about, and your kids are gonna love doing it too.
Yeah.
Just because they'll see the joy and the passion and like the love for the things that you're doing, like it's contagious.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
just, don't give up on yourself but take your time and listen to your body. That'd be
Yeah.
probably my pep talk.
Yeah. No, that's great. And then from a, like, I guess more physical standpoint, like if you look at the last year, so did you have your daughter in March of 2025?
Yeah. Nope,
Yeah.
2020, yeah, yeah, yeah,
20,
2025.
yeah. So that was like then 12 to 13 months before Boston this year.
Mhm, mhm.
And again, repeating that 249 that you ran, which is like, it's such a performance. Like you're really like, it's such a class performance. So I think that it's important to kind of see that what you've been able to do, what your body's been able to do, and build yourself back to actually doing. And so if you look back at that year, you did mention that Chicago was a bit more rough. So that was like roughly 6 months after, and then 12 months
Mhm,
later, 13 months later, you're able to do what you did. Um,
mhm.
and if you were to kind of, I guess, describe or maybe give some comforting thoughts to people who are,
Mhm.
like maybe they gave birth
Struggling.
today or yesterday and they still want to run Boston next year, or they have another race that they want to prepare for. Uh, will you describe some of the challenges that you faced, how you overcome them, in
Yeah.
terms of like your body? Because I'm sure that there is a time like this is
Yeah,
where I have no clue how it is. So I'm sure there
yeah,
are parts of your body that are not really functioning the way they normally do in the first months,
yeah.
and
That
how that
that's
changes.
a really good question, and I'm so glad you brought it up because I think I sort of mentioned it in the beginning, but, like, being able to respect where your body's at, what your body's been through, like, obviously giving birth, it's, like, a major traumatic experience for your body. So, like, you have to, like, respect that, like, training should and, like, will look different. So, like, listen to where your body's at. It might mean that, like, for a little while, you might be doing more swimming, biking, Pilates, like, yoga. Like, I hate doing yoga. It feels like such a waste of my time. But, like, in those early phases, like, respecting, like, this is what my body can do. I'm gonna do those things really well, and then when you can run, you will be stronger, and, you'll be able to feel like yourself. So, like, not trying to, like, push yourself into, getting ahead of where your body is, but just respecting the phase and, like, a a lot of your aerobic, honestly, your entire aerobic base, you can get in other ways and, like, give your body the healing and, like, the recovering that it needs. Um I think that's one of the most important things. And then recognizing that, like, you know, we I think as runners, like, we just love running so much, we wanna get out on our feet. But, like, remembering that, like, foot time is only, like, it's a big percentage, but, like, there's other things that are, like, way, like, super high important, especially postpartum. I said about, like, my fueling, was not where it needed to be. I didn't have somebody, you know, emphasizing to me, like, "Hey, your fueling plan is almost more important than your pacing plan for this race. What are you doing?" Um, and, like, I kind of I paid pretty heavy for it. It was a really, experience. But, like, that's why I've tried to really, share that with women as, like, focus on those other areas, like the fueling and the recovery and, just shift your focus a little bit,
Mhm.
and then it'll pay out dividends, and so when your body is recovered, you can really hit the ground running on, like, a strong body, than, like, trying to pull something off on a on a body. I don't mean to say one female's body is weak after she gives birth. Obviously, it is because it's
No,
exhausted.
no. Yeah, yeah.
But, like, you wouldn't it's just like any injury, like, like the men out there, you wouldn't, like, go have surgery and then, like, skip the recovery process, like,
No.
you get PT and you're patient and you work on
Mhm.
strength building and, like, you focus on other things, and I think with pregnancy, we gotta look at it the same way, it's just like rehabbing your body from, coming off of something that's pretty traumatic,
Yeah.
and then look at it as like a fresh start also,
Yeah.
I don't think anything bad ever comes from giving your body, like, a needed, like, rest to recover,
Mhm.
um, so sometimes you just gotta, like, tweak your timeline a little bit. So, I think that's the second piece is, like, respecting your body and where you're at, um, but then the other piece of it is being willing to, like, relinquish, like, your timing and, like, your plans for things. There's this verse that's, a man will plan his way, but the Lord will direct his steps.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's so true. Like, we can have the best training plan built up and, all of these grand ideas like in our minds, like to run the 6 marathon majors. Like, I'd love to be able to do that one day. But
Yeah.
like, I think the biggest piece for me is that I'm like, it's going to happen in God's timing,
Mhm.
and maybe it won't even happen at all if that's God's will for my life. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like so inspired seeing so many people out there, runners and then their guides out there, like, helping them get from the starting line to the finish line, some of them blind, some of them can see a little bit. Met a guy at our hotel, just, like, had an incredible race, and he was, like, partially blind. And it's
Mhm.
like, you just don't know when, you're gonna lose, you know, your any piece of your health. And so,
Yeah.
I don't know, just respecting that, like, we gotta just find joy in it, it doesn't matter where you're at, doesn't matter on the pace, just being able to get out there and do the thing that you love, that's where it all kinda that's where the joy is, so
Yeah. Oh, that was great. I love that. Like, yeah, those advices, but also, just like, yeah, appreciating where we are and like the health that we have and all of that. And I guess like my last question on this would be, how do you listen to your body at that stage? Because I would,
Mm,
sometimes when you are, not to compare it at all, but last fall I had, I think I caught COVID. And so
memory.
for a very long time, I started having symptoms that I wasn't really familiar with, like that I never really experienced before. I was
Mhm,
struggling to breathe for a while. And it lasted for so long that actually same this spring where I had some iron deficiency, and all of a sudden I had to stop listening to my body the way I was used to, because with the
mhm,
iron deficiency, I was taking supplements and it did help, but I still woke up every morning with like a bit of a brain fog and not feeling great.
yeah,
And so in a normal situation, that would mean that I was about to get sick. So I would take
right,
a rest day and I
yeah,
would take it easy.
mhm,
uh, Between February and Boston, that was not like I had to kind of adjust and start reading the signs differently. I would have to
yeah,
be more like, okay, this is how it is. It was like that yesterday as well. I know that as soon as I go out for my run, I'm gonna feel okay, but I'm
yeah,
feeling horrible right now. And I would assume that after giving birth, but also during pregnancy, you will have your body will send you some different signals, and some of them
yeah,
you really have to listen to and be like, okay, now I have to take it easy. And
mhm,
others are like, okay, this is fine. I can still do my thing, but
yeah,
it's kind of a new normal for a while, I
yeah,
guess. So how
yeah,
do you listen to that, and how do you kind of navigate that part?
yeah, that's a great question. I mean, when like, literally while still pregnant, I think I probably ran until, like, 26 weeks pregnant with the first, and then I made it to, like, 36, like, pretty close to the end with with my second baby. And honestly, it was just doing that, like, listening to my body. Like, you do get to a point where it's like, if something doesn't feel right, you gotta just let yourself take a pause.
Yeah.
And that's different for everybody. I mean, it can all come down to, like, where the baby's head's at that day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so, like, keeping all that in mind, um, I think during pregnancy is important, but, like, I think a lot of that comes natural, especially for women, that you're carrying a baby, so, like, you have a good feeling, you have instincts, I think that kinda, like, alert you to that, but I would say the other thing that's really important, um, and I hope it's not, like, hypocritical for me saying this because I don't have, like, a coach, I don't run with a coach or anything, I build my own plans, um, but I do really think it's important when it comes to listening to your body, like, I don't understand every, like, complication, like, anatomically, like, everything, the way my body works, and so I do rely on, like, professionals that can, like, educate me and, like, help me listen to my body and then know what to do, if something feels off. So, like, I have a PT, Lucas Bianco, he's awesome, and he really helps me, you know, he feels for things that are wrong, like, I'll tell him something's triggering, he'll help me find the source of it, but then he doesn't stop there, like, he helps show me, what do I do if I feel this again? How do I, like, massage this out before, show it a little bit of extra attention, like, from a strength perspective, and so, like, just being able to, like, pick people's brains, asking those questions, leaning into people that are smarter than you, and then again, going back to, like, your OBGYN, like, being connected to a doctor that, like, quite frankly, like, knows your body better than you in a lot of ways, like, understanding the mechanics and, um, all of, like, the chemical like, all of that stuff, and, you know, respecting that their perspective has value. So, like, you may not agree with everything that they're saying, especially if you feel like they may not be supportive, I guess that can probably happen, but I think still taking the opportunity to learn from them and, like, that can help you be better at listening to your body, I think, while your
Mhm.
body is changing, because like you
Yeah.
said, you have to sometimes pivot. Um, and for me, like, I don't even really rely on numbers. I think, when I'm doing my workouts and stuff, I always check my stats afterwards, and I'll, like, mentally kinda go through and be recap, like, yeah, that makes sense. Felt really good there, blah, blah, blah. But I don't actually really look at my paces all that much during. I try to just make sure I'm, like, where I want to be. And then I just, like, go up based off of feel, for my workouts. And, that helps me because you do listen to your body more. Like, I think if you're focusing too much on the numbers, sometimes you miss the piece of, like, how
Yeah.
it feels. And sometimes that can be the more important part.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So I think hopefully
No,
that
that was
touches on
that was such a good answer. I think that like I hope that the listeners feel the same way as I do when you're talking about this. I'm like, yes, yes, this is good. Like,
Oh, good.
yeah, I think that's great. We're gonna wrap it up very soon, but I do want to ask you, at the end here, about your faith and running and how that is like. You did mention already how that is kind of connected for you and that
Yeah.
it's helping you. I guess like it's a very open question. I don't know. I don't have like one specific question, but more like how you see those two as connected, and do you see like that one is affecting the other or helping the other?
Yeah, absolutely. I was encouraged by what you said. I'll have to go see what Connor's been saying, but, he's obviously an inspiration, Connor Manson, his wife, just putting up some insane times, and he's still so young, so I'm excited to continue watching his career, but, yeah, I think they are intrinsically connected, like, for me at least, my drive to just do well at anything I do, so whether that's, like, at work or at home or on the track, I wanna do the very best that I can, just to bring honor and glory to God, and I see, every gift, every challenge, every, like, victory or success, every failure as, like, something that, like, God has put in front of me, and He's saying, like, here's this, like, what are you gonna do with it? Like, are you gonna
Mhm.
lean into me more? And I find that when I, uh, whether it's like a insurmountable thing that I feel like I can't pass or like something like a success, if I like take it and I run with it and I try to do it on my own, I make it so much harder on myself. But like, when I experience those things, success, triumph, failure, speed bump, whatever it is, like and I give it to God, I have this, like, peace of knowing that, like, He wants to take my burdens or, like, whatever is in my way, and He wants to, like, carry the weight of it, and I always feel uplifted and, like, I feel so confident, not in my ability to, like, move forward, but, like, that God's gonna, like, move me forward.
Mhm.
And so, like, I don't know, just being able to rely and tap into a strength that's, like, something that I don't think I can do on my own, you know? There's so many times I think in our lives where we're, like, hit a wall or it's like, "What am I doing in my career?" Like, I don't even know if I should be
Yeah.
doing this anymore, or, like, maybe your times get stagnant and it's like, why am I still doing this? Like, I'm not going anywhere. It's like just handing it over and, like, knowing that, like, when things are out of your control, there's a God that is in control, and, like, we can
Hmm.
tap into that, and, like, the confidence that I pull from knowing that, like, God's got me,
Hmm.
I think it just helps me to enjoy the journey so much more.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just God's like a consistent source of like comfort, strength, in the good times, bad times, all of it. So yeah, that's where my strength comes from. It's,
Hmm.
definitely
No, I
not
think.
in it's not internal.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I would guess that it's a mix of both, that you're also strong within yourself, and then you have how that coming externally as well. And I think it's really cool and fun to hear you talk about this. And I think that, for the listeners, I'm sure there are some people who are believing, some are not. But I think that, like, to take away something of the things that you're, or like, if I was to try to talk about this to someone who doesn't believe, it would be kind of easy to also, I don't know, I like the way you
Apply it. You
described
can
it.
still
Yeah,
apply it.
because you can apply it in the way where, like, this challenge is just there to make you stronger, and, like, it's like, it's your destiny to get this. And I think that is what is so good about it. Like, personally, I've had such good experience. Like, I've been, like, if I'm being honest, I've never talked about this on the podcast. Like, my belief has been like, it comes and goes. And I don't know if that is like natural, like normal or whatever, but it's like sometimes I'm like, I've always said that I believe, but I've not been like, I don't know, practicing that much. But there are times when, like, I remember this, we had here in Norway, this guy, he was a healer, and he was very connected to, like, he was very Christian, and he was actually able to make blind people see again. Like, there were cases of that happening.
Wow.
If you believe in that, do you believe in it? Like, I
I
believe
mean,
in it.
I believe in miracles. I believe
Yeah.
that with God anything's possible. So hey, I don't know.
I met him several times, and I remember he said something about, like, there's a lot of power in folding your hands.
Mm,
That was his mantra, like, just,
mm.
and so obviously, like, praying, and uh, but I found a lot of strength in that. I remember in 2018, it was just like I had this aha moment where I was like, oh wow, that was kind of a weird feeling where I was like, very stressed out, and I just did that, and then just all of a sudden I felt like I was, like,
Yeah.
someone just gave me morphine or something. It was just really weird.
Yeah.
But I still, like, just to kind of go back to that, for the ones who are not believing, I think that there are so many things to that you can apply to your life and that adversity, and try to kind of read into it in the way that, okay, I'm getting this challenge now for me to be stronger tomorrow, right? Like, or
Yeah.
I also love what you were saying about the majors. Like, if God wants you to do that, it will happen. If not, that's
Yeah.
also how it is. And I think that's such a nice way of looking at it. And the other thing that I like about what you said is that it's not necessarily like God is gonna help you to run faster, if you know what I mean. Like,
Mhm.
that's your job to
Totally.
put in that work.
Yeah.
But if he thinks that that's in the cards for you, then he will let that happen and let that work pay off. I don't know if that is, like, I don't mean to put words
Yeah.
in your mouth by saying that, but it's more like that. The way you said it, that just made me be like, yeah, that's true. It's not like God is gonna be like, today I'm gonna let Christian win this race. It's more like,
Right. Yeah. No, I
today
mean,
I'm gonna let Christian use his abilities and have a good day, and then we'll see what happens, kind of.
right. Like, I mean, the Bible says, don't be idle, right? Because, like,
Hmm.
I don't know, just fall into a lot of like, just it's easy to fall away, like, when we're idle. So it's like God wants to see us put in effort, wants to see us like exercise the abilities he's given us, right? But like, what I believe is that he promises that he'll be with us. You know, you dedicate what you're doing to him, like he will, he'll give you favor, and just to help you grow. Like in,
Yeah.
God has only our good. He wants only for our good. And so, sometimes sometimes it takes some hard things to like help us to grow in the direction that I think he sees us as capable of growing in. But like you had said, those people listening that may not believe in God. I mean, I had a psychology professor back, gosh, 10 years ago now. I was at Bloomsburg University here in U.S. and I learned about in my psychology class about the theory of perceived control. So,
Hmm.
like, taking faith out of it, right? Like, there's a science to understand people like succeed in life when they have a firm understanding of what is within their control and what is without of their control.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, if you can't get past like the stress and the worry and the anxiety that can come with trying to control things that you simply can't, like, you'll beat yourself down,
Yeah.
and so I think faith comes into play because after you have a good understanding, of, like, what you can and cannot control, then it's like, "Okay, now what do I do with what I can control, and, like, what do I do with what I can't?" And for me,
Hmm.
it's like giving it to God, like, it's like, I'm not a gambler, but, like, I'm gonna just give all my poker chips to the guy that knows how to play, 'cause,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just, just doing the best I can, so,
Hmm.
anyways, I mean, yeah, there's a lot there, and running is such a mental sport, I
Yeah.
think
Oh, so mental. Yeah.
whether you believe in God or you don't, I think, these are things that, like, we all have to, like, contend with and we think about, and, nobody's fooling me, like, you're out there on your 20-mile long run with no headphones and, like,
Hmm.
you don't have some deep thoughts, like, come on.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, it's cool to talk about these things, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate this conversation. Everything about it has been so good. And I definitely will have you back on to talk more about your training and the specifics of that. I think that for now, this is like such a good, informative, educational episode, I think. So I really appreciate that, Gabriella. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'll have you back on at some point to talk more training
Thanks.
specific
Yeah,
stuff.
thanks for being open to having the conversation and, like, understanding the female experience when it comes to, having kids and, growing babies and still being, pursuing athletics. But yeah, maybe I'll come back after I get an OTQ at Berlin. That's the goal. I'm running Berlin in
So
September.
yeah, because that was going to be my last question. What is your next marathon? It sounds like it's Berlin then.
Yep, Berlin in September,
And the
and
goal
I
is an
know
OTQ. That's
I
awesome.
hope so. I mean, I don't know. It'll be a big PR, but I dropped 10 minutes in the last one, so I don't know. I
Mm,
think with a flat course, who knows, right?
yeah. Well, let's have
So
a
cool.
chat when we get closer to Berlin and talk about it. Thank
Sounds
you
good.
so thank you so much for guesting the marathon podcast, and yeah, thank you for everything that you shared.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I had a great time.
Thank you so much to Gabriella for opening up, for sharing all the things that she did share. I appreciate that a lot. I kind of caught myself by surprise by talking about faith. I think that that's not something that I really talked about here. Not like that I've tried to hide it at all, but it's just something that, like I said in the podcast, that it's I'm in and out of that. Like, don't really know what to believe or what to do, so or how to approach it. I have a very relaxed, chill approach to it altogether. But I think it was like it just seemed fitting to talk about it with Gabriella, and I guess she made it easy for me to talk about it. So uh, yeah, a different conversation, different kind of episode. I hope that you really found this useful, whether you are pregnant, you're young, and you know that you will go through this at some point. Maybe you've had your first or second or third or fourth child, and you want to get back to running. I think that this one can be very helpful, and I also really think that it can be helpful to us men, for us men to listen to this and kind of understand more. Thank you for listening to the Marathon Podcast. Really appreciate you. I am so happy that you are here. Until the next one. You listen to the Marathon Podcast, brought to you by Walt Studio and me. Ciao.